Hi, YouTube. I hope you're doing good. Thank you for joining me. I'm having a pretty good day, not too bad. I'm watching Professor Sam, Narcissist, Fantastic, Consciousness, Predictive, Hot, Global. These are just keywords on different studies and things that have been done on the mental health of people and narcissism and that type of thing. And he's talking about how narcissists actually don't have like a core self. Like you might even see how a lot of narcissists in life will emulate like you or I or somebody else that they see as something within that person that they can draw off of to make like a part of their own. That's kind of typical as we're growing and forming our personalities when we're little people and we look at people. But a narcissist doesn't have their own. Like they don't come onto their own ever. They can't ever get in touch with their selves inside there, that type of feeling. And that kind of leads me to what I've been thinking like for a whole day. I have I would consider a godly person my best friend or friend, um that, like God's a jealous God. Sometimes friends get a little bit jealous. And just for the record, for if you're wondering, I love you. I am reaching out to other channels, bigger channels that maybe would talk about the superbug, the Morgellon situation, so I can get out my information to people a little more on that with scientific minds to get them kind of rolling in the same area to help other people on that level, and how these bugs within us are used by the dark force. And it's a real thing. It's like the Christ spirit or the spirit of God within us can use our blood to communicate with us. And some people think like they're hearing voices or something, and it comes from the outside, but it's heard on the inside of us, type of thing, like a devil and an angel on your shoulder type of situation within ourselves. But it's actual communication from one force or the other to you. So that's I just want to make that very, very clear. If you're a godly human being, I love you. There's no um nobody with maybe a darker personality that the world may perceive like a person with a bigger channel or a well-known person or people that have been in like the um uh film industry or whatever, that type of personality that would be any more godly than the next person. In fact, it could maybe work against them, that they would have more struggles in that area because of different contracts that they've signed in their lives. That leads me to believe um, that they've gone down some roads that maybe they themselves wish they hadn't have taken. So I'm gonna talk about a few things here today. Um, One being, there's a misnomer, a misrepresentation somewhere along the line. I don't know if it's more like from Hollywood. Don't tell anybody where we get our ideas, our information, and who our muse is, like who gives them ideas of inventiveness. They draw off of one or the other. And if they draw off the good entity and they don't give back that recognition, they're still spitting on their daddy, Satan. Um, and he'll deal with them because of that. But this big shh, don't tell anybody, God's actually got a wife and they work together. And that, like when you eat something, that energy is coming right off the great mother and we're responsible for giving thanks to her for her energy. Um, like I say, Mr. and Mrs. God work as a team in some cultures, like Judaism and not Christianity, but they do have the Virgin Mary, but they pay reverence, but and even praise and hail, which is just that's too much. That's like overboard, and it makes it look like a whole flippin' joke. But these people going around not actually talking about her because they're afraid of the satanic part of creation that will attack them for talking about her. But if you don't, you're going to be attacked anyway. So we might as well talk about her because I've confronted Satan a long time ago and nothing he can do to me. I mean, he's going to do bad stuff to me anyway. It's the way this planet is. So when things happen and I know it's that dark force or witchcraft or these crafts that people get together and actually implement things on people in society, I know who I'm dealing with, you know? Then that brings me to wonder, how could somebody think they are Christ? Now, I'll tell you what my thoughts are on this, but not know whether they had lived again or before. Wasn't it said that Jesus was crucified and had been risen? So coming again onto this planet, one would be fully aware that they had existed before. Now, the only way you could be that Christ spirit and not have been human before is if you were actually God in a human body and you wouldn't realize that you had existed before as a human, but you would know full well that you did as a spirit. You know, that's my thoughts on that. But back to the people that are like this about the whole thing, you're going to get tortured anyway. And if you don't pay reverence to the Great Mother, I am not saying worship, I am saying honor and respect and paying reverence. It's almost like when people hail Satan, there's also people that like hail Medea or Athena or whatever for the female aspect of his wife. And if you discredit one part of that marriage, you're discrediting the whole thing and you will suffer for it. I'm just saying, that's, and all these people. Okay, now here's the part of Plato's cave in the Aleutian Fields. I'll get there. I'll get there. This will take a little bit. Some of you are with me on that and you know full well what I'm talking about. So, said to be a dream, but something that actually happened in the ether, whether you want to call it the 144,000 or people that had actually been promised um, companionship, families, and peace in living a happy life in the future. And they actually saw their future come into fruition in the future. And they could tell how that was happening by lives they had led and their worthiness to that point. Are you worthy to have, like, if you're a man, are you worthy to have a female in the future? If you are, you probably were in the Aleutian Fields and you saw the Great Mother, and she was the one who gave you and will give you your desires of your heart here or there. So and to go shh at her isn't going to probably win you any favors with her in the future. And she is the one that is the muse that has that imagination for her children, for us, for you, for I, you know, unless you get it directly from God. There's some people that actually do. There's no go between, and that's what we're ultimately seeking on this planet, is to be able to commune with our Father. Wouldn't you like to be intelligent enough to carry on a conversation with the great Creator and his wife? Wouldn't that be a trip? But in the Lucian fields, there were different groups of people. They were ones that were posing as good and ones that actually were. And she met with every single soul. Cheers, everybody. And they know her and she knows them. But when they disrespect that, and see, they're quiet because Satan told you, um, if you speak about her, you aren't going to have your desires granted in the future, which is a lie because he is not in control of that. She is. That is, Satan is her other half in his lowest form, walking with people on this planet and working through the children of disobedience. And actually her enemy on this plane. But if she were to give in, she would be forfeiting his life to the flesh forever by her staying strong. It's not you that has to be silent. It's her that has to stay strong and not give in. It has nothing to do with any man out here, not talking about God's wife. Has to do with her not bowing to the darkness that people are throwing on her by throwing shade on her or sticking her in the fucking corner. Or people think, well, we're going to get rid of her energy and then we'll just have that male guidance on this planet. That's never going to happen. What you are going to have is a hermaphrodite spirit working through um, Lucifer, not the female representation, but the male representation with the thoughts of the female for his offsprings on this planet. And that's where Mr. and Mrs. get to go and just kick back because their son finally has learned enough to take over. But it's not by shutting mom in a closet while she's still here are you going to gain any favors. You will be penalized for that. And I'm telling you that straight up. That's what the Lucian Fields is, my dear ones. There's ones that were taken in the back, and those are the ones I'm talking to right now. And you know who you are. There was a set of concrete steps that she came out and talked to everybody. There was a stage, she talked to everybody, and the people in the way, way back got taken behind the stage and got some extra instructions for their dark ways, making the decision whether you want to actually be on a lower plane of existence forever or not. You know, you want to be king of the world, or do you actually want to have a soul that's not manipulated and controlled by anything but you? Like you're in control of yourself, you know, like I am. It's a good feeling, let me tell you. The only thing that can get at me is people that the dark force sends towards me, or independent people that think they're brave enough to approach the strength that they encounter. One way or another, I'm just telling you. And people are like, well, we're not supposed to say who we are. Why is that? Who told you that? Is that written down somewhere or something? Did I miss something? What? Is it like arrogant that you would say that you're somebody's parent? You know? What's up with that? Did Satan tell you he's going to keep you in the flesh? He doesn't have control over that. It's not his material. That was given to the woman. It's the Christ spirit that was in her from the very beginning. That's the word. Word up, people. That's what you're dealing with. I think I just fit a whole bunch in this 15 minutes I've been talking. And you better listen because it's the truth. I know I can't prove a thing, but it rings true with you, and you know it is. So, anyway, so you decide you want to be tortured forever in the flesh, or do you actually want to ascend to something bigger because by disrespecting either one or the other, you're going to get penalized for it, period. It's teamwork. Even the Christ Spirit is teamwork. They draw off of the mother's energy and don't give her the credit. Or if they give her credit, they still ignore her. You know, nobody's going to get nowhere doing that shit. Like I said, you're going to be penalized for it. And if I were in control of that in the end, I'm going to have fun doing it. Wouldn't you? If, like, my kids draw off of my energy, want anything from me, and then wouldn't call me mom, or like it would be like a husband wanting to lay with me, but then actually getting aroused from the world, but wanting to lay with me. It's like, what? Are we kind of a little bit misconstrued here? Something a little off with all that? Yeah, I wonder what it is. What is the great mystery? What's the mystery schools? What's the mystery religions? I just told you. That's what they're all about, is the resurrection of the female that was killed. Mm. And two, God stepping down into the flesh, which was somewhat of a death, at least in her eyes, because way back then, some pain that she carried into this world, she didn't understand that part of him and that satanic part of him, or why all that was necessary, and the anger that people carry inside them by not having that understanding has been a lot of the mix up on this planet right now. And then there's women that will take over that satanic position. Now, if you were able to sit on that throne on this planet for people's guidance, wouldn't you do it a little differently than it has been done in the past? If you had that opportunity? Because whatever wasn't working before isn't going to work again, doing it the same way. And that's just what's happening. History is repeating itself. So, and the Exodus is souls leaving this plane of existence. It has nothing to do with a physical being wandering in the desert for 40 years. Now, here's something too with all these wars that people were said to have had, like God's chosen people went into these places and had, where'd they get the armaments? They were living, they didn't even, if they had tents, like Paul was said to be a tent maker. Um, I can make a tent too out of blankets and pegs and ropes and whatever, a little ingenuity. But where'd they get the forges? Where'd they get the metal? Don't tell me they were wandering out in the desert and they had billows and they were able to form and craft long swords and go in and war with people. It wasn't like that. Evidently, some other culture along the way, or they took armaments or something, because people out in the desert do not have access to the fire and the water that they need to to supply themselves with armaments. Is just impossible. It didn't happen, is what I'm saying. Not like that. There was probably trading of, like, I'll give you my daughter if you give me these war weapons and some soldiers to go into this town and kill these people. That's probably closer to the truth with the dark cabal bloodline I'm talking about, because that's exactly what it is, by the way. So, you know, and it's all going to come out because I'm going to prove tonight is my 12th Greek, ancient, not modern, ancient Greek lesson to prove what the Septuagint really is. And it doesn't matter what any little other added vowel, added concept, Hebrew speaking person, not modern Hebrew, but the beginning, which wasn't 3,000 years ago, it was 2,000 years ago. So I'm going to go 3,000 years back in language and texts that were written. How can a Bible be written 3,000 years ago when the one you're reading, if it's Hebrew, is said to be written 2,000 years ago? Explain that one to me, because I'm going to prove it to you. I can prove it with language and migration of people and history, actual chronology. Just take the calendar that used to be a 30-day cycle or a turning of the stars called a shar, and now it's a year. Guess who changed that? Guess who changed the calendar to suit themselves? Guess who changed the language to suit themselves? Guess who's in control of the worldly going ons right now above any other culture on this planet? Can you guess? It's the ones that changed everything. And they are Masonically connected. When I say Masonically, I'm talking ether, mechanics, and actual energy, electrical and light, and the alchemy of the whole thing. That's Masonic to me, right down to biochemicals and bio life and that type of thing. I'm talking what Masonic actually means is not what a Mason thinks he is today. It's not even close. Their science? You're going to tell me you ever met a Mason that was scientific? Well, I met one. That's the one that taught me. He wasn't just a Mason. He was pretty, pretty dynamic, pretty powerful. And that's the first entity that I whooped his fucking ass. Not physically, although I could have. And he wasn't a little man either. He was a fucking monster. His chest was like out to here. His shoulders wouldn't fit in this camera. That's huge, huge. What you would call maybe a giant. I'm serious. I even made him like clothing, shirts, different things to fit. He had a big barrel chest, huge. But this and his mind what surpassed anybody I actually knew. So it was a good person to grow up around. In the Eastern Star Witch that always connived shit to try and keep me submissed because she knew that um, the only thing she had was a connection with the dark force, and she didn't understand how the dark force actually was developed to protect people like me. But unless we screw up, and then it's going to come after you. And I'm trying to warn people, you're going to get it anyway. It just depends who you want to get it from and whether it's good or bad. True thing. And all these people know that. The dumbest women on the planet here goes, are the women in the Eastern Star. They are so stupid. And those Masons that you're married to, they're laughing at you. Even if the ones that are Masons that are in your hall for your installations and making you a worthy matron and the rest of your bullshit, they're just there to keep an eye on your dumb ass because they know that you want to capture the essence of Christ and keep the female spirit under your control and the male spirit from ascending. And that's all these are about, and the Masons disrespect them. They just use them as tools within the society to make it look like they're family-minded people when family is about the farthest thing away from most of them. I think some of them actually get into these type of groups and organizations because there's many affiliates, but it doesn't always end up like that. And some of them go on the darker path, and other people think that it's actually all satanic. It's actually not all satanic. It did not start like that. It was infiltrated, and that's why you have the difference between the Rosicrucians, the Jesuits. There were Jesuits that went against the king in the Crusades. They were supposed to go into certain places in England, maybe, or wherever, and come down on force on these pagan people and their churches, and they refused to do it. They sided with the pagans. And then you would have kinda like a Freemason at that point, or um ones that maybe migrated to the Americas, and you see like there's different signs of that Jesuits had even been in like the Grand Canyon or wherever. They migrated all over the world, but there's still different types of Masonic orders around the world, and some are good and some are bad, and most are bad. There's a very few select, because it is called the War of the Roses. Just depends on what color your rose is. Is it yellow for remembrance of the female, or is it black for the death of God that they want to keep captured on this planet? And there you have to make a distinction. What part of this war are you in? What are you invested in? Why? Why are you? Because if you're on that dark side, nothing will ever benefit you in the future. So you're living for a temporary situation. Some people don't even realize it. A lot of people in the world really aren't. They think they're spiritually connected, but they don't know what spirit is actually driving them and who they're listening to. They may not even know why they're listening to it. They think it's their inner self, you know. That's where I could say like a narcissist might have the upper hand on all that stuff because they don't believe in anything but themselves, and the only thing that they have to deal with is that dark force. If they're lucky enough to have somebody with the Christ Spirit intervene on their behalf, they may overcome what is considered a mental illness. If not, if they don't have that intervenance, I think that's how you would say it. I'm a little goofy sometimes, but there you go. Um, or interference on their behalf, uh, well, they might be lost. Maybe people don't care about them enough to help them in that way. I care enough. I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to make it be known that um, if person doesn't acknowledge where they get their energy from, they don't deserve it. And it doesn't come from a man on this planet. It's the woman's gift. It's all hers. The religion of Christianity was started by a female. The first Mason, the first Masonic order was female. Did you know that? And it wasn't developed for darkness. It was a communication skill that um, women have sometimes a closer connection because of their nurturing ways, which is uh, really going down the drain in our society. Hopefully, it won't completely, but I can see it lessening all the time. That feeling that is not in the different chromosomes because of the motherly ways that are not fatherly, you know? Yeah, that type of thing. I know men that are sorry that they didn't understand their women sooner, but I know men that wanted a family. They actually loved their wife dearly, but they lost it all because they didn't understand. Even if she was like a little flighty or flirty, which is not my personality, but I've seen this happen where the guy could have tamed her by being strong and not flirting along with her, and he ended up losing it all because he wasn't strong for her in that area. And I've seen it happen over and over again. Just a warning to people, and guys will do that too. Absolutely. But then there's also guys that want you to be faithful, but they don't want to be. So, and that's been my biggest experience on the planet. Whether people touch people or not, look but don't touch. No, don't even look. Teach your children how to lower their gaze. You can look at people as a whole and think, wow, there's a physically beautiful human being. Where do you go after that? Do you take them into your bed? You know, do you have that right? That's where it's actually like mental rape, even with a little child. These people, they're like minorly attracted. Like I've said before, I'll minorly attract you to my foot in your head if I ever see anything like that in my life, because I have, and that's how I deal with it. You will get hurt. There's not a doubt in my mind. You want to boff a child? You need to die. Simple as that. It's no in between there in my heart for anybody like that. So just to make that perfectly clear on the protection of the children and how strongly I feel about this. And at least like the Native Americans, they their great creator, our Father, and Mother Earth, they are always paying reverence to her along with him. And it's a beautiful, beautiful family minded situation that the rest of the world is missing. Yeah, they got my big respect with all that. And they're so beautiful about it. These women aren't jealous or stupid like Satan wants you to be. They're just in love with their moms, you know, their mom, the great mother. And anybody that can see that she gives us everything, well, hey, You just won the game. You found the key, the actual key to ascending. You honored God's wife in our physical existence. That's not called worship. That's just honoring our parents. It says so in the scriptures, but that's not what it says. I'm going to prove more through language, but I'm still doing laundry and dishes. I have a busy day, and I'm going to be learning more Greek tonight. But what I'm talking about is what I've learned from decades ago. I'm just going to be able to prove it more. But there's plenty of people out there with PhDs if that's what you need to prove your case, that know what I just said is the absolute truth. They're scholars, not just of one language, philology, many languages, and the migration of them. And the proof is cutting through the lies and protecting people. But you have to listen up. What I just told you, you're either going to deal with Satan here and stand up to him, or you're going to deal with the Great Mother, and she calculates and add things up just like any human being that gets hurt. You want to hurt her feelings, she probably isn't going to care about you. And that's what these people learned in the Lucian fields. If you want to read something absolutely mind-blowing, read Plato's Cave. Absolutely. So, all right, everybody, have a really beautiful night or day wherever you're at. I love you. Peace from Pine City, Minnesota, USA.